Hello again, everybody. I'm Ken, and this is Rich, and we are back with Epic Dad podcast number three. Today, we're going to talk about the second letter in the acronym of EPIC, which is P, and the word that stands for is provider. So, we're going to go through and talk about what the provider, the father as a provider, actually means within the context of the Epic Dad program. Hello, Rich. How are you today?
Hey Ken, great to see you. Yeah, I'm really well. It's great to be doing this again. I'm really enjoying our podcast.
Awesome, me too. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun and hopefully is educational for those that are out there listening. So let's get right into it. Talk to me. When you created this acronym, the word provider came to your mind, and that was significant to you. So what beyond the scope of we think of a dad going out and doing the job and bringing home the money, right? But I know we've talked about this before, and I know that your feeling and scope of what that word really means goes much deeper than that. So help us understand what's a provider, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think historically, this was a role that dads really embraced, but their understanding of it was very much, I'm I'm a provider. I go out to work. Mum looks after the kids. So dads would go out, often working long hours, sometimes overtime, not really at home much because of the kind of desire to provide for the family, tangible things, practical things, food on the table, a roof over their head. So dads, I think, historically have really leaned into that provider role as something just very practical, which is wonderful in many ways. You know, dads that have that desire to make sure practical needs are being met for the children, for the family. But I think the downside was that children didn't feel like they really got to know their dad because he was never around. He was at work long hours. So they view dad as, well, he's providing for us with, he's at work all day, and then dad might deal with the discipline when he came home. And so it wasn't particularly a positive, engaging relationship, I think, for many, because that's just how it was viewed, that mum did all the child raising and the caring and all the other kind of domestic work and supporting the children at home. But thankfully, we're moving away from that kind of gender stereotype and now with flexible working hours, working from home, working shifts, it's great to see dads more actively involved in childcare, working in partnership with mum and just caring for the children and yeah, and becoming more hands-on, which is definitely a huge plus. And I think for me, when I was reflecting on the word provider, I really wanted to kind of extend the scope and understanding of that word, because I think perhaps the whole provider thing, there's been some negative backlash from that because, oh, it's taking dad out the home and dad's leaving everything to mum, or he's not involved caring for the children in other ways and emotionally distant. So it's actually reclaiming that word and seeing it as a far broader thing, that dad is a provider, not just in practical things by going out to work, but what the children really want more than anything is they want dad.
Hmm.
They want dad, not just what dad can bring them, but dad to be present and engaged and involved in their lives as they grow, whether it's helping with homework, whether it's cooking the dinner, whether it's playing a game together, just dad who is present and meeting the child's needs. Because when we think of not just the children, but all of us, we have many, deep, complex needs. It can be our practical, physical needs, food on the table,
Hmm.
having a nice warm bed to sleep in, all those kind of just basic human needs that we all have. And dads can obviously help towards that. But there's so many other needs, our kind of emotional needs to know that we're loved, we're valued, our social needs, that we're interacting, we're having friendships, we're having meaningful conversations, our intellectual needs, that we're growing in our learning, our understanding, and knowing what our gifts are, and reaching our full potential. And how dads can be a really key provider in this, to complement their partner and just or whatever the family situation, that dad would see that they have a provider role, which is about meeting these various needs in the lives of their children, not
Hmm.
just one, not just the basic needs, but actually dad to be there as an engaged, loving, fun parent that's um, helping the children create memories. And as they grow, they won't think of, well, dad made sure we had enough money, but I never saw him. More than that will be, I've got so many happy memories of dad kind of playing with me and we're laughing together and just really being a big part of our childhood, which is what dads are meant to be. I mean, years ago, when you think about it, dads would, teach their children a trade, a
Mm,
skill. So there was a lot of kind of engagement and shared experiences and activity together rather than disappearing from the home. Dad was there, kind of in the home, teaching a child with the dad and experiencing that together.
fantastic. Yeah, so the things that come to mind are we've sort of gone through cycles of this. As you mentioned, maybe a couple hundred years ago, there was this notion of almost serving as a teacher or trainer of an apprentice. In a lot of cases, the child would follow the vocational role of whatever if the father was a bricklayer, the child might just be a bricklayer and would continue following that model. But we've gotten out of that in the industrial age, and now we're more sort of independently minded and more allowing of individuals to go off and do their own thing, which is great. But in a lot of ways, that has also created separation between the parent and child during the child rearing process. As you said, there's been sort of this expectation for a long time that dad's primary role was to leave, to go off to work, earn enough money to put a roof over the heads and food on the table. And that, in many ways and in many cultures, has been a definition of a successful father, with the perhaps the disciplinary aspect that you added as well as kind of the bookend, when the dad comes home, the kids are shaking in fear because they know anything they've done during the day that mom didn't like, dad was going to come take care of that problem. Um, but now we're in this place where we're starting to open up and allow more complexity into the fatherhood role. We're saying now it's okay for dads to be and express emotion not only to their spouse but to their children as well, and to be an advisor and a role model and a counselor. And many fathers have not been trained how to and taught and shown examples of how to do these things. So I think on one hand it's fantastic that we're opening up sort of the boundaries and parameters of what a father is expected or allowed by the culture to be responsible for. On the other hand, we're seeing the whole reason I think your organization exists is because we immediately recognize not everybody's ready or capable or confident enough to take on those new responsibilities. Um, all right. So what else? What else do you find sort of important when you sit down with a young group of fathers and start talking about the provider role? Do you get resistance back from them? Do you get confusion? Like what sort of
Mm.
feedback do you get when you discuss
Yeah.
these themes with dads?
It varies really. I think for some dads, they just are so committed to providing for their family and they don't want them to be without. So they feel torn actually. They
Mm,
feel, there's opportunities to do overtime. Christmas has come in. I really want to work. I want my kids to have all these things and, perhaps plan it, but raising funds, saving funds for a holiday.
mm,
So there's that desire kind of, and it can be an expectation from work to do the overtime. So they can feel pulled in that direction. But then also the kids are like, "Oh, Dad, when you getting home, or can we do this at the weekend?" And or Dad getting home to help with bedtime routine. So there's that pull in that direction. So I think sometimes it can be incredibly challenging that you feel like you can't be fully engaged in either. You like the demands at work and the demands at home. You want to provide tangibly with things for the family, but also your kids actually just need you there to be
mm,
engaged and part of their world and enjoying time with them. So I think that can lead to a lot of kind of stress and challenge, and just how you kind of navigate that with family, with work, and with yourself, really. Because sometimes that could be an inherited like pressure of, or if I'm the dad, I like my dad did, my granddad did. I've got to work every hour available because that's what I need to do if I'm being a good provider to my family. So there's that kind of pressure. So I've chatted with dads around that, and just, try to speak into that to give them some encouragement and support of, just looking at the situation. When is it the right time to say yes to that overtime? When's the right time to say no? Actually, I'm needed at home. And to be fair, a lot of businesses, companies now are giving more time and more reflection on how they can be better to support family life with the pressures and the dynamics of family life. A lot of dads now have said they don't have to do the commute because half the week they can work from
Hmm.
home, and that just saves time. It's better for well-being, it's better for the
Yeah.
environment, and it's better for the family. They get that additional time with the family, helping with the school run in the morning, helping with evening, time with dinner and bath and story time and all of those things, and at bedtime, so that they feel like they can engage more because the work has given them that flexibility. But obviously not all jobs are able, or don't kind of offer that, so that can be a challenge. And then I think of some other dads I've spoken to where perhaps for health reasons they're not able to work, so they start feeling guilty, thinking, oh, I'm not providing very well for my family because I'm not in a position where I'm able to work at the moment for health issues, and they feel like they're letting their family down. So in that situation, I really try and help them see that yes, you may not be able to go out and tangibly work and raise, and raise funds that way by working, but you offer so much, again, because we're redefining the word provider. Just kind of reframe the situation that actually you're at home more, and
Mhm.
so the children are getting to see you more. And obviously we don't want them to have these health issues, but it's looking at the positives, that they can perhaps spend a bit more time with the children during the week, during the day, not just at the weekend. So they're providing, themselves, they're providing support perhaps in their education, helping them with homework, or providing kind of new experiences of, shared interests and hobbies they can do together, or, just having that time just to engage and connect, and enjoy being family, and having that healthy father-child relationship, that they've got that extended time to put into that. So really trying to look at provider again is a far broader term, and they provide so much by just being a loving, caring dad, an involved father who listens, who gives time to them, spends time with them, that they are meeting needs in the lives of their children in a really profound way. Not just the basic physical needs, like we said earlier, it's the emotional needs, social needs, intellectual needs. They are meeting their children's needs. They are a provider by being there for them, and we have to think far more than just going out to work and earning money.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's so easy for us to quantify our what we think of as our value in the hours that we spend at work, because a lot of us know how much we're being paid for every hour of time that we spend at the office or factory or wherever we work. So we could say, hey, my value is this amount of money per hour when I'm on the job. But we don't get that type of quantification when we're at home or playing with our children or outside of the workplace. So it's a lot harder to establish value and an understanding of just how valuable that presence that you keep mentioning really is. Um, how important do you think it is for a father to relax their typical dad role of being the disciplinarian and the director, the one in charge of activities, and turn over responsibility for creativity and design of that time with the children to the child? Do you see that as an important aspect of this provider discussion?
I do, yeah. I think sometimes, like, we're so used to life being about order and
Mhm.
routine and structure, and we can be very task orientated, I think, sometimes as men, as fathers. And it's like, is this meaningful? Does this have purpose? Am I ticking things off my to-do list?
Yeah.
And I think, when we spend time with our kids, it can be very, it can be very spontaneous. It can be very messy. It can be
Hmm.
very kind of out the box, creative, imaginative, different. And it's almost like letting go of control. And we play and do it this way at this time, or, we've got to get here from here to here now. And but to actually create space just to let go and be just in the moment with them.
Hmm.
because I think that's when some of the really amazing things can happen
Yeah.
in your relationship, and actually it benefits our well-being as much as it does them.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to do something, my wife would agree with this, that I'd be very good at kind of getting the children all excited and hyperactive and do like some fun stuff with them. And then I'd be like, oh, I've got to go out now. So like, and then I'll just, leave the kids for her to handle afterwards after I got
Yeah.
them all all excitable. Because I was like, just, or let me squeeze in a bit of fun time now, and then
Hmm.
my schedule says I've got to go out now, and I'm off to do this,
Right.
and I think we just have to be better and not fill in our time all the time. So actually, to be able to spend time with our kids when we're not keeping an eye on the clock with the next thing, because we don't want them to feel like we've just scheduled them in.
Hmm.
They are a priority, and we want to have more open space and time just to be and see what happens.
That's a great, actually the idea was crossing my mind, like, is there any value in maybe a one day a week and actually putting an hour or two of playtime with the children on the calendar to say, hey, I'm not going to go out and do yard work or work on the car or, do any kind of other project or anything. I am going to set this time aside specifically for my kids. The children wouldn't necessarily need to know that, but that might be one bit of advice for us to help discipline ourselves to prioritize that activity until we sort of make it a more naturally occurring aspect of our day-to-day lives.
I think
Um,
that's so true because like when we're at home, we may not be at work, but we just fill our time with other work, don't we? It's
yeah,
like you said, there's always like gardening to do or wash the
yeah,
car or do the dishes or hoover or things to sort out. So before we know it, the weekend's gone on all these other activities rather than actually
right.
just being present with the children, enjoying time with them, and like we've said, making memories. So I think there's a real balance there, isn't there? Like you want to be spontaneous
Hmm.
with the fun things you do, but also you want to be intentional in
Hmm.
diarying things in, making a plan in your mind. You're thinking, we're just gonna, I'm not gonna put anything in for this morning. We'll just see what they want to do. And like being child-led is really powerful, I think, rather
Yeah,
than we've decided what we're gonna do because we want to do it, whether they want to
yeah,
tune in or not, but we become more child-led in the activities and it can be really more meaningful to them and you as you see and let them lead you into play.
yeah.
Um, because
I'll tell you. One of the most valuable things I got out of the Epic Dad play groups, because the way you set those up is you have what 10 or a dozen different stations all around, and so every time we would show up, the first couple of times I was like, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that, and after a while I started to learn like this is not for me to direct. I need to look at my daughter, who was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time, and ask her the question, what do you want to do? What is it that you are most interested in? And that completely changed the dynamic and her excitement level and her ownership of that event. So, yeah, you're
Incredible.
right. We have to be comfortable turning over the reins and letting them from time to time decide what they want to do, even if it's not something that we're particularly interested in.
Yeah. And then ultimately realizing that whatever other activities you may do with them, still their favorite toy would be you.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
remember
Yeah.
being the climbing frame for my kids when they
The
were younger.
the dad will always be a jungle gym. Even my daughter's almost as tall as my wife now, and I'm still the jungle gym. One day it's gonna snap my knees, but I'll keep playing.
And as a provider, it definitely feels like in one hand we're providing entertainment, and the other hand we're providing snacks. That's what we're doing. We
That's
are
right.
that provider, whatever
Yeah,
they
nothing.
need.
Fun and food though, you can't go wrong. That's a pretty good job. All right. Well, I think that was a pretty awesome discussion on the provider role. We've talked about sort of like the fact that yes, the dynamic nature of that responsibility is growing and expanding, and dads can look at that and get intimidated and think, "Oh, my job description is getting bigger and more complex." But also, I do see it as a positive thing. We don't want to be bored in anything we're doing, whether it's jobs or relationships or responsibilities. And so growing the complex nature of that provider role, I think, is a positive thing for us in the future. It's going to keep life more interesting and fulfilling for us.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts on the provider role, or anything else you'd like to leave the audience with before we close out today, Rich?
The word that just comes to my mind is the word adventure. This is
Mm,
exactly what it is. Fatherhood is one big adventure, and like you said, there's lots of complexity to it. There's more aspects to our roles than perhaps we originally thought. But how wonderful that we get to grow as a father in the
mm.
things we bring and the things we learn and how what we offer and how we support our children, just as they continue to grow and learn and experience new things. So I feel like we're growing alongside our children.
Yeah.
They're growing from children ultimately to adults and learning so much along the way. And we're just enjoying this adventure with them as we grow in our fathering and experience new things and just develop skills and basically be that epic dad that our children need.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let them be our teachers. It takes a letting down of our personal ego sometimes to allow that, but it does make life a lot more fun, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks to everybody who joined us today, and we hope you got something valuable out of this conversation. Next time, we're going to be talking about the letter I. So, what is I in Epic, Rich?
Instructor. So we're going to be talking about being an example to our children and the things that we teach them. And in fact, we're teaching them more than we realize in daily life, and just being mindful of that and feel more equipped to teach them and pass things on to them to help them.
Awesome. Looking forward to the next conversation. All right. Thanks
Brilliant.
everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.